at least the two backliners synergize very well, and at least Taxa can also buy a little bit of space with that explosive cask.
Yeah, and we're in for game number 1. At the moment, it is simply checking the entrances to a jungle. Seems like no one wants to be able to try and risk that level 1 play early on.
And going into this, right, I'd highlighted that for Verdant, I think that their play or their way to find advantages in the early stages is going to be through that top lane. Nile has a really good matchup with the Gnar versus the Cassante early on. You're going to be able to bully out the Cassante, try and at least burn a summoner spell, even though it is the Ghost for Rifty in that top side, and potentially find an advantage through getting kills, getting plates, getting extra gold over your enemy top laner. And for the most part, if Verdant can execute on that on the top side, it's going to give a little bit more breathing room to Erol and Kevo to scale up into that late game monster that we know both of these two players and champions respectively can be, even though they're going to be in a position where they're having to match them Voxnay on this Aphelios.
And keeping our attention for our bot lane for just a couple more seconds, it's worth highlighting as well, Kevo going up against his former duo here in a best of 5, Nash and Kevo both on. It was Riddle last year, where they both had quite a decent amount of success, I want to say, in the summer split. They surprised everyone, but by almost getting that top 2, barely missing out in the end, and then they dropped out pretty quickly in playoffs, sadly, to Astralis Talon, but were the big surprise of summer 2022. Now both of these guys going up against each other for a battle for the last EMEA Masters, but obviously this is not going to give them the straight ticket, but it is going to keep those, international hopes alive.
You can already see early trading from Erol here. Cassiopeia at level 2 outtrades just about every single control mage. Without CC, Syndra, obviously, you can just stun and walk away, but Orianna not feeling good after that trade, and you can already see burned through both of those potions where Erol has an extra potion to spare, so advantage early on goes the way of the Verdant mid laner. This is what comes from that comfort, and both of our junglers taking mirrored jungle clears, starting on their blue side, heading up toward the red side afterwards. It's No Name pathing up toward the Cassante, toward that lane where we expected Verdant to try and find an advantage, and this says to me that No Name wants to limit those advantages to say if Nila does try to get a bit aggressive in the laning phase, try and find a lead, I'm going to be there to stop him and punish any over-aggression.
Yeah. So as the first clears slowly but surely start getting completed, we'll see where the next course of action is. I'm still looking towards the bot lane, really, seeing if Nash is able to find something. He likes to look for these opportunities early on, but up against the Nautilus, I do obviously see the chance of Clyde to turn it around, so looking at Nash, seeing if he maybe becomes a bit too over-eager, if Clyde is there to punish. Otherwise, I'm expecting a bit of a quieter early game here, Rude.
Yep, not really going to be surprised by that either, with the scaling aspects of Aphelios Ezreal on either side. Orianna doesn't scale awfully and Cassiopeia scales tremendously. It is no shock if we do see this game get a little bit stalled out through the early stages, and that just falls back onto our junglers to make those plays happen. And I think that's where it favours Ruddy quite significantly, as highlighted previously. Taxa, just generally speaking, isn't one of our junglers that opts into a lot of ganks early on. I say that as I look at the tri-brush down on bot side, and I can see that there's something going on.
Oh, he's going straight over. Doesn't catch his force of the flash. He should be able to get out alive, but maybe Nash won't. As one more auto would do it, the ignite ticking, not quite enough. Kevo now taken down to half, but they don't have the damage to kill him. You talked about the passivity, but attacks are easier to prove you wrong.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy for that, because I think that if Verdant are going to stand a chance in this series, they're going to have to prove me wrong. Verdant already with Taxa stepping up a little in the early stages to burn the flash from Voxnay Cleanse as well. Nash still has both summoner spells, which I think was a little brazen of him, but he did get out to live. Using the Potion and Biscuits combo to survive the Ignite is just enough to make sure First Blood doesn't go to Verdant. But on the top side, right, No Name was hovering on that top lane. Oh, it looks like he's burned Nilla's flash, actually, so it is actually a response of summoner spells in either side lane.
Opens up the opportunity to play around those lanes even more. Destiny has to be that little bit more careful. Obviously, the Hawk is able to get you out of some situations, but not all situations, as Taxa very quickly back on the map, spotted on a ward though, so heads back out as Rifty forced to flee his top lane.
And still needs to find that first reset as well on the Cassante. Nile was forced back, had already burned the teleport to get back to this top lane, and Rifty can now do the same, potentially even with an item advantage. Comes back in, Sheen plus boots, so decent trading power and matched movement speed to make sure that the Gnar can't kite out too easily. Now, of course, we said that the early game expected to be a little bit stalled. If we come back to how we expect this to play out in the larger scale team fights a little bit later on, you can just expect to see death balls, honestly, from either side. Nile has got the option of being a split pusher, but we've also seen him perform exceptionally well when he plays these team fights as the Gnar, slamming people into walls, 1v9ing team fights just off of how well he can use the Gnar CC to set up his team for success. So if we're going in at neutral lane states, it will come down to a good gank mid. Okay.
Good flash away here from Erol. Good petrifying gaze as well. They might turn it around on Nash. He does have the flash, but doesn't have the time to use it. Great turnaround from Verdant on Ruddy's play.
Can't flash on a grounded state right there. Nash cannot get out to safety. Erol with a great flash away from the shockwave, and then puts down the W, means that Nash cannot get out to safety, and a great turn, a great response from Verdant with the 3 people on responding for the mid lane. Gotta give credit where it's due. First blood goes to Taxa, but Erol set that up beautifully.
Yeah, incredible play from him. And let's just take a look at it one more time. Here the play has already really happened. It was the engage from Nash, good turnaround from Erol. As you said, petrifying gaze, miasma, not much you can do. Even with the flash, you can't dash, and that just led to his demise. That's a good rotation from the Vest of Verdant there to respond as well. I wanted to talk about this point because we can still see it actually in the CS difference. But you mentioned the good trade from Erol earlier on and how this was bad for Nida. But we've also talked about how good Nida has been at laning in general this split and has been able to build these leads solo. You can see it. He came back in the lane. He has been able to build a 20 CS lead after taking a poor trade early on. And obviously that poor trade doesn't mean everything, but it just still shows he's so good at laning that despite making a couple of mistakes, he's able to bounce back and still gain that lead.
And this CS deficit probably means that he's even, if not ahead, with Erol in gold as well. So a really strong position for the Orianna to find herself in. There you go, up by 150. It's not the be-all and end-all of advantages, but it does mean that that first blood advantage in the mid lane isn't going to be as felt as you might have liked. Now, heading into, obviously, this season, we had questions around Naito, and I think those questions have been answered exceptionally well, right? Was on Mad Lions Madrid for a couple of years through 2020 and to 2022, but didn't manage to make a good showcase enough for him to get promoted onto the main roster at any point, and then being removed from the LVP to the NLC, as we do see Taxa topside.
Yeah, good all out to deny the Gnar from Nila Taxa. Shows himself, but unable to connect with more than just a single barrel. And with that, I do want to take it back to our Nida talking point. As the Herald might get taken down, the Drake could fall as well. Honestly, yes, we've now mentioned it, but I do really want to talk more about Nida because I find his story so interesting. And, you know, Quickshot tweeted back when there was some casting drama behind the scenes about a certain person leaving the scene that, you know, if everywhere you go, things are always on fire, consider you're the match. And I think that kind of applied in how I looked at Nida after 2 years and multiple different iterations of a roster at Mad Lions Madrid. I want to take that back because fighting is happening in the bot lane. Klai's gonna die here to the ignite. Kevo flashes forward to turn it. Klai survives, and it's Verdant bot lane coming out on top. I'll get you to break that down. I'll finish my point afterwards.
No, it's okay. We can. Nida good, and with the Drake going down, it's Nida now under pressure in that mid lane. The barrel not quite in a good enough position to pull him back into Erol. You can see there's actually an experience advantage as well for Nida in this mid lane. This is that replay of how the bot lane all went down. Klai goes in first, and versus Red White Aphelios, there is that question of, oh, should we even be taking this fight? Fortunately, Ruddy burn all of their spells, all of their cooldowns onto Klai, who's just able to survive. And it means that we just see Kevo free fire, and when your AD carry is free firing in a bot lane 2 versus 2, the odds are you're going to come out on top of that. Boxlane forced away, didn't even survive that engagement, comes out with a distinct item disparity now in that bot side. Essence Reaver versus just the components of the Bloodthirster is a really good position for Kevo to find himself in. It's a huge spike where 1Q is just going to start dealing 200 damage at a time. But of course, the counterpoint to that is Voxlane, he's got the Vamp Scepter, he's got Fleet Footwork. It's going to need to be more all-in oriented.
I think Nila's ulti, he could definitely go for it. Still has the Gnar available for one more second, or maybe there's a visual bug. Could have gone for it, I feel like. Regardless, though, he does not. Gets a good trade out on Rifty. And with that, I do want to make it very clear. The point I was making about Nida is I was starting to doubt his ability after 2 years and 4 different rosters around him without getting any success. Clearly being the main part that Mad Lions Madrid wanted to build around. And I knew the guy had talent. but I had just hadn't seen it in 2 years, so I was wondering where it was. And we've seen it this year. We've seen how he can perform. We've seen how he's been able to build leads in lane. And I am so glad we get to see Nida at the level I expected him to be at for the past couple of years.
If we take a look at how this early game has all played out, there's been a couple of kills. Obviously, that's 2 versus 2 kill in the bot side, the first blood in the mid lane as well. The leading recipients of that with the kills have been Taxa and Kevo. They both finished their first item. And we now need to see them try and push that lead. We've got a Rift Herald in Tax's inventory. Looks like he's headed towards the mid lane as there's a bit of a trade down on the bot side there. Then Voxner using the Moonlight Vigil.
Could be in trouble. Flash away. Miasma not quite on him for long enough to get the follow-up. Regardless, no Herald will be spawned. That's a couple plates over to the Verdant mid laner and jungler as well. As it will charge, get that 1.5 plates. I don't think they can get more with 3 members of Ruddy rotating into defend.
A little bit of gold there put into Tax's pocket and a bit of pressure put down on the mid tier 1. Genuinely something that Verdant really needed. Like we've mentioned, Nita has been controlling this 1v1 in the mid lane very well. As you can see, just constantly outranging the Cassiopeia with this Orianna lane matchup as Rifty is almost dead.
Yeah, Rifty is in trouble, but so is Nila now under the turret, all out. Yeah, who's winning? It is Nila with the boulder to the face. He finds Rifty, but it was all too close for the Verdant top laner.
Oh, and in the mid lane as well, Erol finds a solo kill. That's 2 for nothing in the Verdant solo lanes. Both of them stepping up exactly when they needed to. The stat replay of actually what happened on the top side. It is so close, nearly under the turret here. I'm thinking surely he goes down. Rifty goes all out, but unfortunately the animations are just too long, and with the boulder toss being enough, Nila comes out on top. And as mentioned, right, we see Erol finds that solo bolo in the mid lane also. Really what you want to see from the Verdant solo lanes here. It has been a really strong start to game number 1, and putting them ahead of where they should be in this game is going to set them up beautifully for team fights.
Yeah, it's going great so far. We mentioned it in the draft that we would have expected Ruddy to be the one putting the strings in the early game, being more proactive, not just on that draft, but on the players they have on their team as well. This has not been the case, and as you say, it just sets Verdant even better up for the part of the game where we think they are strongest, which is the late game team fights.
And we'd mentioned as well going in that Nila was going to be, or the part of the map that I was expecting to be an advantage was in this top side, was with the Gnar versus K'Sante matchup, and thank goodness we get to see Nila really explode on that and make the most of those chances. Finds the 1 versus 1 kill, a couple of plates falling as well. Second plate gained for Erol in that mid lane also, and you can have all the CS that you'd like in the world, but you can see 1 solo kill plus a couple of plates gives an item discrepancy, and Erol, if he finds a way into the range of Orianna, will be able to chase down Nita, or at the very least burn that shockwave where you don't need to burn Petrifying Gaze for it.
Yeah, the help that Taxa has given to Erol in the mid lane has certainly helped, but Erol, as you say, able to find that solo kill, very much impressive. As I don't think Erol is a bad laner either way, so I'm not exactly that surprised. It has just been Nida being a little bit more precise in the CSing department. 2 very good Danish mid laners going up against each other at 2 different points in their career. Erol more the, the hot shot coming through from NLC Div 2 last year through the Danish National League, while Nida has spent more years out and about in Europe, still trying to reprove himself, showing why he was one of the biggest talents in Danish League of Legends for a while.
Second Drake picked up. This time it goes the way of Verdant. It's Nila again finding Prio.
Yeah, he just gets it here, right? He has the Gnar available. Use it as. That's another solo kill. Second one now for Nila. He's absolutely dominating this top lane.
Beautiful from Nila. This Gnar is having the exact effect Verdant hoped that it would. No names here. He's 2 levels down, but he does have a gold drinker finished.
Yeah, does have the gold drinker, as you say. The kick, the Q connects as well. Should have it. There is no rage build up. Nice double jump. Flash available, but doesn't want to go for it. Nila escapes with his life, and that's the grand prize.
Yeah, a little. Honestly, I think a bit of a misplay from No Name, but he does find the. That cooldown from Nila just comes up. I don't know if there's ever a world where he finds that kill. Probably has to go about the combo an entirely different way in order to try and find that, and then you run the risk of finding trying to land a Q on a Gnar who's got hyper passive. So very difficult actually to try and get that kill, but Nila escapes keeps that bounty up over his head on the timer of this second Herald spawning. And with the Hextech Rift as well, it means that forcing Nila back is not as important as it may have been. He's got those Hex Gates to leave the base and get out onto the map faster.
Yeah, second Herald up. That means fight, fight, fight. And it is Nash, the one in trouble, caught out in the miasma yet again. As it is Nila who will pick up the kill for Killing Spree. It is such a good start for Verdant as they'll look to capitalize and get the second Herald as well.
5, 6 even to 0. Just nothing going Ruddy's way right now. Really powerful stuff from Verdant and a compelling start to this series. They've still got to close this game out, but they've got a 3k gold lead. They've got a Cassiopeia and an Ezreal scaling very well, and they've got a top laner who just keeps finding solo kills.
Yeah, I mean, he's having fun. He's taking up a whole wave and does not care. Still winning the individual trades here as well. It's going oh so good for Verdant, and when we're looking on the grand scheme of things in terms of this game as well, when we look into the scaling, yes, there is good scaling on Ruddy, but in particular, I'm looking at the junglers. No name is going to fall off so much harder than Taxace on the Gregs.
Now you can still have a very decent impact as Rifty now going for an 0-2 solo kill.
Yeah, I mean, he's fancying it, but the hyper procs are just too much. Nila though very low as well. The Qs just need to connect.
They're just all gonna
One
walk
more
away.
hyper stack would do it, but Rifty decides not to flip it. Backs out. He committed a lot for that exchange, and here comes Texa. He's just gonna look to clean this one up. Nila there to try and zone him off. Texa doesn't have the explosive cask available. No flash either. Will still look to chase him down. The barrel connects, and the auto seals the deal.
Yeah, I would like to say that when I'm 0-2 down in top lane, I wouldn't go for those plays, but I think if you're feeling it, you're feeling it. Kevo should die here, though. 3v1.
Yeah, cross map from the side of Ruddy. This has to work. This has to give him a kill, and it will. But then Voxner dies to the turret, and that kill goes over to Kevo. It is an absolute disaster, as Ruddy failed to get that 1-0 they needed, and now they're gonna lose their mid lane as well. No flash, no way out, as Verdant across the map keep winning.
Taxa is unleashed on the Gragas, finds 2 kills in the space of 20-30 seconds there, goes from top to the bot lane, just makes his impact felt, and 2 turrets secured for Nile as well. It's not just these kills now, it's the map being opened up, and with the wave so far into Ruddy's side of the map, they are losing on so many fronts that they just don't have any control. That topside jungle is going to be absolute no man's land for Ruddy. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail to get any sort of vision down if Verdant decide that they want to play around it. With no turrets there, they've got nowhere for, or Ruddy rather, have got nowhere to fall back to, and Verdant have got nothing really to fear on that top side. This game has been a wonderful execution through these early stages, and it has come from outplays. Nile finding solo kill after solo kill, and the fact that Kevo's able to find a kill there in the 1 versus 3 on the bot side, it's Ruddy not performing to the standard that we've seen them previously.
That was really, really bad by the side of Ruddy. The fact that Den Voxen died is so crucial, because what did you want to gain from killing Kevo? Well, you wanted to get some XP, some gold into Den Voxen and feed him up. But he wasn't able to take the turret because he died to it, and all of a sudden, you end up just in a 1-for-1 where no one really gains anything. And what's happening on the other side of the map? Well, Verdant are getting 2 of the kills, so they win across the board with the third Drake spawning in 30 seconds. Seems like a fight is on the card from the bot sides.
And at some point, Ruddy are going to have to try and take a broader scale 5v5. My concern is that they definitely don't win it. The items are not in their favour.
Explosive cast, no name, knocked towards the turret. Here comes the depth charge as well onto Nida, TP from behind. It's Nila and he's making a good damage though into the front line of Verdant. And they finally find 1 kill. Nida though in trouble as Nila looks to take him down. One more auto would do it, but he's in the bush. He's staying alive. Then Voxner caught on the wrong side of the fight though. That's 2 more for Verdant as they turn it around. Find a 2-for-1, 2-for-2 trade rather.
Really good for Ruddy there. The fact that they're down this 6,500 gold deficit and they're finding fights evenly, genuinely a miracle that it comes out that much in their pocket. No way should they be that close. Should just be a wipe. Verdant do take the Drake, so it's not like all the worst thing in the world. But Den Voxner here is untouched for the start of this. Nash goes in, tanks that depth charge, and a great Inferno multi just lines up Taxacly for them to fall near immediately. Den Voxner's flash here, I'm going to question, because either you're flashing for a kill or you're flashing to live, and neither of those 2 things are going to happen. But in the moment, right, you can just sense the little bit of panic that happens. Doesn't matter though. The fact, like I say, they go 2 for 2 is exactly what they'd be after. An even fight in that situation is more than they could expect. What
a game so far, as Ruddy showing that they still are in it to some degree. A 2 for 2, as you say, very, very good. But on the map, it is still Verdant with the control, able to take the Drake. Only the second for them this game, so no early soul on the cards, which might be good news here. But Ruddy, as they look to continue to scale up. In particular, I'm looking at Vox, and he still doesn't have 2 items, and as Nash now might be caught out around the Baron, able to dash out with the quickness and the battle dance.
Yeah, Rakan notoriously slippery to try and escape. We have reached that 20-minute marker though, Duckling. It means that Baron is on the cards for either of these teams if they find that they've got enough time to go for it. We can see Verdant with some nice laning assignments as well, keeping the Cassiopeia up by this Baron in case they want to shred it down. Nearly down on that bot side to continue to find advantages versus Rifty. A full item up over the Cassante, and in a side lane, should be able to take a turret if he sees fit. You can see on the minimap that he's pathing up toward this bot side. I think he's just taking Scuttle right now, as there's like little contests between Verdant. They're trying to battle for every single jungle camp, make sure that that lead that they have becomes as big as possible, and just play patiently right now for Verdant, because they've got that infinite scaling of the Cassio. It's not infinite, but 6-item Cassio hits harder than any other mage just because she gets so much value from the 6th item. Typically, another mage will have to go for boots. Cassio doesn't have that luxury, or doesn't have that floor in this case, and he's able to build 6 fully heavy-hitting items. Bot side, Nile takes the turret. This is just the start of Verdant's mid-game snowball.
And as Verdant look to gain even more control on the top side, they'll clear out the Baron pit. They won't start it up, as the recalls have just come through. Nile also on the bot side, but they're able to get the control over the pit as Ruddy now try and move in with the recalls coming through and get some control back.
And you can see that Ruddy are actually trying to opt into going for these 5 versus 5s. The leading thing that leads me to this is Rifty's built a Negatron cloak as his second item. He's heading toward either the Force of Nature, Spirit Visage, whatever it may be. But that doesn't help him in a 1 versus 1 versus the Gnar. The Gnar does the majority of his damage as physical, and yes, those hyperprocs are magic. But Verdant already, they just pull the Gnar into this top side.
Whoa, No Name is in trouble. The Baron, not even down to half before he falls. Nash goes in, finds 3 Shockwave onto 2 Taxa being one of them. And as he commits forward, he has to flash out to get out to safety. But Ruddy, unable to find something back. 3 clear on the Baron and dropping. They will secure it with the smite from Taxa. They'll get the kill as well. It's a perfectly executed fight for Verdant.
And it's perfectly patient as well. They take down the jungler, but then don't overextend for a fight. Kevo hops over, recognizes that there's an angle potentially for a fight, decides against it, comes right on back. Has that Navori Quick Blade, so getting your cooldown on the Arcane Shift down is really easy. For every Q that you land, it's a 2-second removal of the Arcane Shift timer. And Kevo isn't missing skill shots this game. He's been nailing Ruddy every single chance that he gets. Means that he can hop in, hop back, and get back to finishing that Baron. As Nash now in a bit of trouble. No Name's nearby. With the dredge line going wide, Nash able to escape, but with the Baron at Verdant's back, they can feel very, very confident that turrets are on their cards.
Slowly getting towards that 10k mark for Verdant. Who would have expected this? Well, I'll tell you who. It's Middlecut. He predicted them to win the first game here, just giving him the shout out he deserves. Despite the game not being over, this has certainly been a surprise. Hitbrain as well. But we're not going to give him credit for it because it's our production who predicted for him, so he's not going to get any credit for it. I don't care. Regardless, though, No Name he's looking for flank. Yeah, he's spotted as well, so he's just running.
And I think that's appropriate response. Mid lane is just all Verdant right now. They take the tier 2 turret there, and Kevo outranges Aphelios at every juncture. That is not a lot of HP that Denvoxney has. I think that was just Qs. I mean, Denvoxney is literally 20% HP right now, and this kind of minion is all that they need. Verdant are just playing this game so patiently right now with the lead that they have. They don't have to be over-aggressive, and they can just let the minions, let the range do the talking.
With another Drake up in 15 seconds. That might be the next plan here for Verdant as they recall in unison. Looking to set up for the next neutral objective on the map. It is the soul point, not the soul. It is the Hextech soul as well. There is a mistake up in the top left corner, but that is not us. It is the downright client. I think we all know that doesn't work 90% of the time. Regardless, it will still be that Hextech. It is the Hextech soul point secured for Verdant. I'm getting confused now as well with the Mountain Soul icon. God damn it.
Do not fret. Kevo solos these every day of the week. Also want to credit Kevo for going the correct Ezreal build. Tier is fake. Don't build tier on Ezreal. You can go for this Essence Reaver Navori Quick Blades build and to have just as much damage and even more uptime on your spells, so making maneuverability a lot better for the Ezreal, which is one of the leading reasons why you're thinking. But 2 people commit to that top side from Ruddy. It gives Verdant a bit of free time down on the bot side. They're pushing onto the tier 3 turret. Don't quite find it, but big poke onto Niter. They've got 15 seconds left on this Baron. It's going to be one more wave of a push that they've got. And Ruddy, they probably want to force a fight off of it.
Yeah, it feels like Verdant are just one big fight from winning the game, but it is also the point where Ruddy can start to answer back and maybe push themselves back into the game. 2 items have been reached on their main carry, Snyder and then Voxner. Eyes on the Shockwave, eyes on Nash. Can he find the right engage? He has the ball on him. It's pressure on him, but it's so hard against all the peel and all the damage on the side of Verdant to find the right engage. But Nash has done it before.
So they stall out the Baron and none of their tier 3 turrets end up falling. This is a win for Ruddy given how far behind they are. 10,000 gold the deficit. If I get a Baron as the enemy team and I have a 10k gold lead, I'm sad if I don't break open the base of my foes. So Ruddy holding off just well enough right now, pushing back the game for as long as possible, waiting for Den Voxnay to hit those big item spikes. If Gale Force gets finished, it adds an extra layer of safety to the Aphelios as well. And with Flash and Cleanse available, one big team fight may well be all that Ruddy need. We saw in that bot lane that even in a disadvantageous gold state, they're able to find fights that go even. If they can do that again, but in a bit of a later game situation, it means that the reward is going to be even bigger for them.
Exactly, and the thing is, if Verdant take the fight now, the possible reward for Ruddy if Verdant fail isn't that big, because they're only gonna able to get maybe 1 or 2 turrets, but they won't be able to get the Baron, they won't be able to deny Dragon. So if Verdant want to play a bit risky, well, now is the time for Ruddy. They would almost like to wait a minute before they start fighting, because they want to be able to get the Baron rather as the reward, as you just mentioned, right?
Exactly right. You can see already with Verdant turning their attentions back over here, Baron is more so their priority. But with Rifty trying to get a little bit of gold, those pity prizes, the objective bounties do exist for Ruddy. So trading turrets here opens up the map a little bit more for Verdant, but they're not actually able to take any of these tier 3s. This is now the second time that Ruddy have made a play for a side lane turret that hasn't been responded by Verdant.
And I mentioned it as the Baron was just being killed, that we were nearly at that 10k gold mark, and that has not changed. We're still 1k away from that 9k separating these teams. Yes, it is a lot, but it hasn't grown really over the Baron buff, thanks to, as you say, these couple of good trades that Ruddy have found, being able to take the turrets. And there is so much gold in these turrets with the big bounties that are around for the side of Ruddy, so they're able to keep themselves in the game for now and not allow Verdant to get even more ahead of the game.
40 seconds left on the Baron buff. Verdant have spent the last 2 minutes controlling this topside jungle, and they're continuing to do the same. They can just fall back to that Baron. Engage comes through, but Rifty, with that Force of Nature, is having the value right now. Cassio Gragas not doing as much damage as this had been dead.
No name! He finds the kick onto Kevo, forces the flash, but he can just create so much distance so quickly. TP in now from Nila. No rage below, but it might not matter. Flash! Hook onto them, Voxer from Fly. The follow-up just needs to be there, and it is for Verdant. They will find the AD carry. Nash forced to run. They look to chase down the remaining members of Ruddy. Nash will fall here into the hands of Tex and Ida, and No Name barely slipping away back to their fountains. Verdant could look for the game or get the Baron.
I think Inhibitor plus Baron is the likely call here. Nash using these Hex Gates, he might actually get out to safety, depends if Kevo finds him. No, there's a ward here. Yeah, Kevo takes this one. Just waiting for some more auto attacks or skill shots, but the Baron's already going down. No Name is alive, does have smites. There's a world where there's a contest, and with them Voxnay up in 10 seconds, Nash is stalling. Might have been enough. It looks like there's just a 2-man Baron going on, and Nile is just kiting in the 2v1.
I mean, Nila just doesn't care. Look at the hyper movement speed as well. He's level 18. 3 levels up on his counterpart. What a clinic Verdant has been putting on this game.
And now with Baron in their back pockets, they can go take Hextech Soul as well and make their final push on the Ruddy base. Not looking like there'd be a chance for Ruddy to respond. Those third items not quite finished for the mages, for the top laners, for the junglers, still down on that second item. Yes, Don Voxnay finished off that Gale Force, but it's not enough gold, unfortunately, to compare up against Verdant. 3-4 item now, Nile, who is just absolutely 1v9, not even 1v9, Verdant are doing really well, but just putting team on the back.
Oh, this looks rough though for Ruddy. What can they do? The shockwave is there for Nida. Where will he use it? On no one. He misses the shockwave. Now Voxne has to do all the damage, but it's an impossible task he's put up against, as Verdant will run forward here and look to claim the game. Good kite back. Texa goes golden. Then Voxne, he gets some good damage up, but it is simply Kevo who blocks it by going golden himself. Now locked up. Taken down is then Voxne for one final time. Verdant can look to push in the wave. Surely this will be game number 1 in the underdog's hand. And it's been a dominant one at that, at just 30 minutes long.
14,000 gold lead for Verdant here. Game number 1 should go their way. Baron at their back. They don't need the soul. Only 3 kills for Ruddy this entire game.
What a performance. And I think this series could go all the way. Verdant, they shock everyone by winning that game.